Bonjour French 1. This is your study guide video for your test over section 1.1. It'll walk you through all of the correct answers to your study guide, which of course gives you some insight on what to expect on your upcoming test. So on the first section of your test, you'll have a section where they give you 5 pictures and they give you 5 French phrases or sentences, and you have to match the picture with the sentence that best demonstrates what's happening in that picture. Now there's not actually pictures on your study guide. The idea here is if you know what these phrases mean in English, you'll know what they mean on your test, and then you'll be able to match them up with an appropriate picture. So it's important that you know ça va bien, which is it's going well, or à tout à l'heure, which is see you later, salut Marc, ça va, which is hi Mark, how are you? Au revoir, à bientôt, which is goodbye and see you soon. Plus ou moins, which is a way of saying you're having an okay day by saying your day is so-so. Pas très bien, which is not so well for when you're having a bad day. Bonjour, Madame Dinwiddie, which is hello, Mrs. Dinwiddie. And j'ai 16 ans, which is I'm 16 years old. Now, if you wrote in your answers and one of them's close but not exact, call it good enough because, again, this is not about a direct translation. This is about being able to match these phrases with a picture that represents them. For the next section on your test, they are going to give you a word in French, and you have to identify whether that word is A, a subject, or B, a verb. Keep in mind that subjects are people or things that are the subject or the topic of the sentence, the person or the thing that is doing the action. In French, we learned our subject pronouns are je for I, tu for you, il for he, elle for she, on for the general we, nous for we, vous for y'all or you formal, and il and elle for they. Basically, if you see one of those subject pronouns, you're going to mark down the letter A because it's a subject. If you see anything else, even if it looks familiar because you've seen it in one of our sentences before, it's going to be a verb. So letter A, je, is the word I. It's a subject pronoun. It's a subject, A for number 1. For number 2, that AI word we learned whenever we learned our ages, but it's a verb, y'all. It talks about, it's the word for to have for a singular person. So that is a verb. Letter B, if nothing else, it's not on the subject pronoun list below, so you know it's got to be B. Number 3, the word tu is you. You is definitely a subject pronoun, so A for number 3. For number 4, s'appelle is a way of giving somebody's name. It is not on the subject pronoun list and is therefore a verb. S'appelle is like calls themselves, so that's B for number 4. A for number 5 is a version of the word for have, and it is definitely not on the subject pronoun list, so it's B. Number 6, L is the word she. It's on your subject pronoun list below, so it's definitely a subject, A for number 6. And number 7, nous means we. It's on your subject pronoun list and is therefore a subject, A for number 7. For part C on your test, you will have to respond to a statement or a question using a complete French sentence. You cannot repeat an answer once you've used it, and spelling does count. Now, the tip that I always give people on this section is look at other parts of your test. There's lots of words and phrases throughout the test that you could copy from other sections, and that will help you with your spelling. There's also more than one right answer for these, so if you don't see the answer you put, it doesn't mean that you're incorrect. It just means you didn't have the same idea as I did. So for number 1, they ask you to say hello and give your name. We learned 2 different ways of saying hello, bonjour or salut. Technically, you could use bonsoir if you wanted to say good evening. And then the way you say my name is in French is je m'appelle, and then of course fill in your own name. To tell how you're doing or how you're feeling today, there are lots of choices. I only listed 4 of them here, but if you have a different one that you pulled off of your notes, or maybe you see a different one on another part of your test, there are more than these right answers. But très bien is saying you're doing very well. Bien is saying you're doing well. Pas mal is not bad, and pas très bien is not very well, as in you're having a bad day. Number 3 says your friend introduces you to her friend Mark. You have to respond to the introduction. Now, you could just say hi, but I already used hi on number 1. I used salut, or I used bonjour. So I'm going to give you something different, which is enchanté. Enchanté is how you say delighted or nice to meet you. Please know, though, that if you are a girl and you are filling in this part of your test and you write enchanté, you need to add the extra E to it. That's part of spelling it correctly for a female that's saying nice to meet you. If you're a boy, please make sure that you leave that extra E in parentheses off. You do not need it, and it's incorrect if you list it there. For giving your age, you're going to have to do a complete sentence just like I did, but obviously you won't put 32, which is 32. I'm not even 32 anymore. This is an old example. But you do want to start your sentence with j'ai, and then you'll want to write out the number that is your age. Notice that it says on your paper that you need to write the number as a word, and then followed by the word years, which is un in French. Finally, there are lots of ways that we learn to say goodbye, even more than what I have here. Here are some of the ways, though. Au revoir is goodbye. À demain is see you tomorrow. À bientôt is see you soon. À plus tard is see you later. You can also use salut if you didn't already use it for a different question. But really the big thing with these is these are the same 5 questions that are going to be on your test. So knowing that ahead of time, you should be planning out your answers and practicing what you're going to write. If you get stuck on the test, then I'll tell you to look at other parts of your test to help you, as far as you can copy words and phrases from other sections of your test as well. The 4th section of your test will give you a paragraph written in French, and it'll be your job to underline some cognates. Remember, cognates are words that look very similar or the same in 2 languages and have the same meaning. So cognates are your best friend because you can look at the word, and because it looks like English and you know what the English meaning is, you also know what it means in French. If you read through this paragraph, you can see here that I have some of the cognates underlined, such as adore. Same thing in English, it's to love or to adore something. Science or science class. Sport is for sports. Volley is volleyball. Golf is golf. Rap is rap music. Friends who are super in French, just the same. Math is a math class. Professeur is a teacher or a professor. Favori is pretty close to favorite. And biologie is biology. Now, if you got different ones or if you didn't get all of those, it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong per se. I believe on your test it asks you to underline 10, but they give you a much longer paragraph than what you have here. So just be aware of what a cognate is. So when it asks you to identify them on your test, you know that those are the easy words that look the same or similar in French as they do in English and have the same meaning. The 5th section of your test is a listening section. It's the only listening section on this test, and it has you listening to 5 different people give their ages. So they will give these numbers in a complete sentence. Your job is to zone in and listen to that number and choose the correct age of the person. Now, as far as getting ready for that goes, I'm going to go ahead and say the numbers for you again so you can hear how they all sound. On your study guide, there's also a YouTube link. You can get on YouTube and just search for French numbers 0 through 30, and there's all kinds of videos that'll pronounce them for you, but you need to be able to recognize them. So let me pronounce them for you, and then we'll do a quick practice here in the video. In French, the numbers go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So what I wanted to do with you real quick just to practice, I know this isn't on your study guide, but I'm going to give you 5 numbers. I'll say them out loud for you, and you see if you can identify them just hearing them. Try not to look at your notes or anything. So if I say the number 10, hopefully you got that the number 10 is 10. If somebody gives their age and they say, j'ai 5 ans, 5. Hopefully you remember the number 5 is 5. If somebody says that il a 15 ans, 15, they're saying he's 15 years old. If somebody tells you elle a 26 ans, 26 is 26 years old. And if somebody tells you j'ai 12 ans, 12, hopefully you remember that is the number 12. Just a quick way to get you thinking about what the listening will be like, because you'll hear these numbers at random and you'll have to identify them. Finally, the last section of your test has you listing 5 Francophone countries off the top of your head. It's my sincere hope that everybody at least remembers France, but beyond that, this is a gigantic list of countries for you to choose from. Figure out what's going to work for you memorizing these. Some people use a mnemonic device. They remember all of the C ones. There's all different ways to go about it, but there's literally going to be 5 blank lines on your test, and you're going to be expected to write 5 French-speaking countries for full credit on that section. So take a look at what I have here and make sure that you'll be prepared to have all 5 countries ready to go by next class. So finally, I want to remind you that you will not be able to use this study guide on your test. We will rewatch this video at the beginning of class before you take your test, and I can go over any questions that you may have. But during your test, there are no books, no notes, no study guides, no cell phones, just your own brain to help you complete the most or the best demonstration of what you've learned so far.